Hi everyone, I'm Abigail. This is James, and welcome to another Two Kids interview.
We are joined by award-winning middle grade author Julia DeVillers.
Ms. DeVillers has written many books, including the Ultra Squad series, the Trading Faces series, and the Liberty Porter series.
Thank you so much for being with us today.
I'm so happy to be here with you today.
Growing up, were you a fan of the Haley Mills movie, The Parent Trap?
What makes you say that? Yes, I was a huge fan of the movie The Parent Trap, both the Haley Mills version and then the updated version with Lindsay Lohan, because the movie was about two identical twins who discover in summer camp that they hadn't met before since they were little. Parents had separated them. So it was so much fun for me because I have an identical twin sister, to think about what would have happened if we were in their place. And the Haley Mills characters and in The Parent Trap have so many funny and embarrassing moments that it's such a good movie to watch, and especially good if you're an identical twin because you get the in twin jokes.
I have a brother, but he's younger than me.
That might be a little tricky to switch places, but maybe you could pull it off.
Can you tell us the differences in your writing process when writing a book by yourself or writing a book with your sister?
So what's really interesting, I think, about writing with my twin sister is even though we're identical twins, we have very different writing styles. I write everything on my laptop, whether it's doing the research or writing the first draft or going through the revisions. And my sister doesn't like computers, and she writes everything by hand in a notebook. So our different writing styles are kind of fun because we each bring something new to the table. She likes to doodle when she writes. So we have a lot of behind the scenes of her pictures along the way. And it's super fun. So we wrote this book together recently, Meet Isabel and Nikki. And I wrote the character of Isabel and she wrote the character of Nikki. So we would take turns looking at the world through these different characters' eyes and bouncing back and forth off of each other. It was super fun. And then when I write by myself, I guess it's not as much fun as writing it with my twin sister.
You and your sister are both very creative. Can you tell us the most creative thing that you came up with together when you were kids?
Oh, that is so interesting. My sister and I have always been creative. We've always been really into books and we've always been into writing. So here's something fun I have on my desk. This is one of my diaries. It's called the Gnome Notebook. And I wrote in it when I was about your age, but not only would I write in it, I would then pass it to my sister. Sometimes in school, we would pass these notebooks back and forth to each other, and we would write almost like we were pen pals, letters to each other. So we had shared diaries, which I thought was kind of creative. And we would draw pictures. Here's some doodles, and I would give it to her and ask her how her day was, and she would tell me, and then she would pass it back. Like here, I went to the mall with Jennifer. How do you like your new socks, Jen? And she says, love my new socks. Let's change our room around. Okay, it's really funny that I opened to that page because the characters in the book actually changed their room around. So that's an example of how creative we were back then that really inspires us today.
When you are reading a book that has twins in it, can you tell if the author has a twin or not?
That's a fantastic question. I think there are so many good authors out there who can really get in their characters' heads that I haven't really caught anybody, well, maybe a little bit. So there was a book about twins, and the twins were always switching places. And they would say things like, oh, if you punch me, my twin will feel it. And my sister and I would laugh because people would ask us that, silly twin question. If they punched me, would she feel it? I don't want anyone punching me to find out. But there are authors like Varian Johnson who wrote a book recently called Twins, and he's a twin himself. So it's kind of fun to have the authentic twin experience and then to see what other people think it would be like if you were a twin.
Can you tell us about some of the research you've done for your books?
Yes. So the most recent book that I did with my sister, the Meet Isabel and Nikki, was fun. American Girl, if you're familiar with the American Girl dolls in stores, reached out to us and asked us to write a book for their historical line. And I was thinking, oh, wow, I'm going to have to do a lot of research about the 1600s or the 1800s. But it turned out that the book was set in 1999, which was an era that I lived through. But I still had to research it to remember, the things that were just happening in 1999, like the early stages of computers that had dial-up modems, or Blockbuster Video, which I don't even know if you know what Blockbuster Video is, but it was a place that we practically lived at. See, exactly, when you couldn't just turn on your computer and watch the movie that you'd want to watch. And we did some research, this is fun. These are mood boards that were put together for the book. So my character, Isabel, loves tennis and pink and sparkly things and preppy and plaids. And the character of Nikki loves dark purple and grunge, alt rock, and more of a plaid style. So doing research is fun to do it both visually, like this, for your characters, and just another thing that I do for all of my books that I think is really important is researching with people who are the same age as my characters. Most of my books are contemporary, which means they're set today. So I like to talk to kids like yourself. If I'm writing a 10-year-old character, I'll make sure I talk to a lot of 9, 10, 11, and 12-year-olds to find out everything from what's your favorite color, or what do you like to do after school, to asking them deep questions like, what are you worried about? What's the hardest part of your day? That way, I hopefully can have very authentic characters in my books that really speak to the reader and things that you can relate to when you're kids today.
I'm 10, he's 11.
Oh, there you go. Well, my next book, might have to see if you want to be in my focus group. Just saying. No pressure. No pressure.
Writing a book is a big commitment. How do you become sure that this is a story you want to commit to and tell?
That's an excellent question. So writers have lots of ideas floating around, right? But we can't write all of them, I would think. Well, maybe some people do, but I can't write all of the ideas I have, but some ideas really stick in my brain. And I start thinking about one idea and it's very sticky. Usually I start with the question, what if, or I wish this would happen, and start thinking about, if I were writing the book, what would my character be thinking? What would my character be doing? And if I lose interest after a few days or a week, then it's not the right idea for me. Because when you're writing a book, you really live in that world for a while and you live in those characters' heads. So you want to make sure that it's something that you're excited about and passionate about before you start writing.
Do you enjoy writing the good guy or the bad guy in a book more?
I love this question. So it's so funny you ask that, because just yesterday I was asking a girl if she would be in my focus group and I could run some questions by her. And she was so great at the answers. I said, she had a unique name. And I said, Tuesday, I want to name a character after you. And we said, should it be the good guy or the villain? And she said, the villain, the mean person, because sometimes it's really fun to do things in fiction and your imagination that you would never want to do in real life. Of course, in real life, she's not the villain, but in my next book, she's going to be a little mean and she's going to have some consequences for it.
Please don't name me after a character. I don't really like being named after characters.
I'm fine with it.
Well, actually, there is a character, James, in one of my books. So he's on one of the book covers right back here. And he's a lot of fun. He gets into a little mischief, but he's a good supportive friend. So James, you're covered.
James, you're on the front cover.
You're famous.
We have interviewed a number of authors who've had books banned in certain places.
That means in those places, kids don't have the same access to books that we have and may not be able to see themselves represented in books.
Can you give us your thoughts on this?
Oh, books being challenged in bans, it's just truly terrible. To sum it up, I think nobody should tell you what to read and what not to read except your parents and your guardians.
We agree.
We agree.
A long time ago, you worked at Chuck E. Cheese. As Chuck E. Cheese. Have you seen the movie Five Nights at Freddy's? Because I'd love to know your perspective on that.
I think Five Nights at Freddy's, I haven't seen it because I'm kind of a scaredy cat. but I think I'm going to have to bring myself to see it, given the fact that not only did I work at Chuck E. Cheese, but yes, I was Chuck E. Cheese. And I know all of the behind the scenes of what it's like to be surrounded by those kind of creepy characters. And it's funny that you bring that up, because that might be a hint as to what I'm writing in the future. Because sometimes I take experiences from my own life and put them in the books. And one of the most embarrassing moments I've ever experienced, what happened while I was wearing a Chuck E. Cheese costume. So stay tuned.
Can you tell us your thoughts and if you are at all concerned about about artificial intelligence and its future impact on publishing?
Wow, that is an incredibly thoughtful question, and one that's kind of hard to quickly summarize. But interestingly, my nephew was working on a book about that very topic. So as soon as I read his research and get his thoughts, I will have a more intelligent answer to that question for you. Or I will run to AI after this and see what AI would say, if it would be better than my answer. But it's a tricky one. It's rough out there being an author, between book banning and AI happening. I just want to make sure everybody, especially your age, is still telling their own authentic stories from their heart and from their own minds. Let yourself be creative. Don't let yourself be hemmed in by worrying about those things.
Can you tell us about your childhood pen pal author and any influence that had on you becoming an author?
Yes, at one time, I had 28 pen pals from around the world. And it was super fun. One was as close as a few neighborhoods over. And then I had a pen pal in Wales and a pen pal in Australia and a pen pal in Hawaii. And exactly. So I did a lot of writing, as you can imagine. And what it really did for me was opened up the world, because we asked each other questions about what it was like to live. I was growing up in upstate New York, and they were fascinated by that. And by the way, when they heard I was from New York, they would think I was from the big city in Manhattan and picture this glamorous city life. But really, I was living in Albany, New York, which was a regular suburb. So they would tell me things about their cultures that I didn't know, and fun stories from their lives. And I would do the same. So that really did give me an early glimpse into thinking about writing from other people's perspectives that I think has been really valuable in my writing today, because I try to capture a diverse representation of people, and also, like I said, pick people's brains and try to see things from their points of view as well.
Actually, I was born in New Jersey.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As you can see, I'm wearing Yankee color.
Hello, Yankee fan. I also am a Yankee fan, but what's funny is my twin sister was a Mets fan, and we shared a bedroom. So on my wall, I had posters of Batgirl and the Yankees, and on her side of the wall, she had rock stars and the Mets. So we kind of were dueling. So I'm glad you're on my side.
We're in Chicago right now.
Oh, nice. I'm in Columbus, Ohio. So Midwest, just like you.
Lowly Cubs fan sitting here. Hi.
I have nothing for you.
What advice do you have for young writers?
Pour your heart into your work. Be yourself. Express yourself freely. And also don't get hung up too much on what you're putting on the page, because writer's block, I think, is a real thing, and whether you're writing something for school or for yourself, you sit down and there's a blank screen staring back at you. And sometimes that can be really intimidating. So the trick that I've learned is I always put a lot of pressure on myself to open my book in the most compelling, exciting, attention-grabbing way, right? Because it's important. You want people to like your book right away. But that feels like a lot of pressure. So it's kind of like a blank page. So what I always do is I always start with either the second chapter or writing something even in the middle of the book that gets me excited, that I feel like I can know about it. So I'll start writing what I know. I'll get really excited. I'll write the entire book, and then I circle back and I write the first pages and the first chapter, because I'm in the flow and it doesn't feel so intimidating. So write whatever you want to write, and don't put too much pressure on yourself about it. It's all being creative.
Can you tell us about what you are writing now?
A little bit. It hasn't been announced yet, but I have a new middle grade book that I'm working on. And the opening chapter is a scene of my life that was one of the most embarrassing things that ever happened to me. And it was very humiliating. And I haven't put it into a book yet. And I think it's time. So that's all I can say. It's classified.
Finally, it's time for our Turbo 10.
10 rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
Sorry.
A little scared, but I'm ready.
Number 1. What is your favorite phrase to use?
Happy to be here.
Number 2. What is one subject you love to learn more about?
Amusement park rides, and that's a clue to my next book. You heard it here first. You're the first kids to know that in the entire world. So don't tell anyone.
This is posted on YouTube.
I know.
Number 3. What's your go-to snack food?
Blueberries right now. In fact, I'm eating so many blueberries, I could turn into Violet from Willy Wonka. Am I blue?
Number 4. What was your favorite book growing up?
It was the Guinness Book of World Records. I always wanted to know what people can do when they really push their limits.
Number 5. If you could teleport somewhere right now, where would you go?
I would be on a yacht in the Mediterranean Sea with a good book.
Number 6. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Teleporting to the yacht.
Number 7. What was your favorite cartoon as a kid?
Batman. Definitely Batman.
Number 8. What is your favorite rainy day activity?
Reading books with my dogs.
Number 9. If you could have any 3 dinner guests, who would they be?
I would say Judy Blume, Batgirl, and Prince, the musician, to perform for us.
Number 10. What is the best piece of advice you were ever given?
This too shall pass, which is great advice my mom used to give me whether I had a headache or when I have writer's block. This too shall pass.
You were awesome. Thank you so much for doing that.
And thank you so much for spending this time with us.
We can't wait to read your future books.
I loved every minute of it. Thank you so much. This was so much fun.